Showtime. Hi everyone, Comic Noob here, coming back at you with another video. Today I am excited to talk about Daredevil by Frank Miller and Klaus Janson. Let's get into it. I am very excited to talk about this one. Daredevil Omnibus by Frank Miller and Klaus Janson. Recently, I did a top 5 Noob reads list that I shared here on YouTube and various other platforms. And one of the criteria for that list is that I had to have finished the omnibus or the book. There were some non-omnibuses in there. I had to have finished it from start to end. And when I did that list, I had not yet finished this. Now that I have finished this, I have no problem saying that this is in my top 5 Noob reads. If you're into Marvel Comics, if you have any interest in Daredevil at all, this is worth reading. The book is $100, and I believe it's out of print right now, unfortunately. Now, I got this as a Christmas present, and I've been reading it slowly since Christmas. And the first few stories in the book, I don't think they're bad. In fact, I would even say they're good stories, but they're more like your standard Bronze Age fare for Daredevil. And then, maybe around 1/3 of the way through the book, Frank Miller steps in as the writer of Daredevil. And once that happens, this book never lets up. If you want to, you could probably just read this for 8 hours and be thoroughly entertained. Most of the motion picture adaptations of Daredevil have some inspiration coming from the stories in this book. What kind of stories do you have in this book? You have the introduction of Elektra. You have stories with the Kingpin. You have stories with Black Widow, the Punisher. A lot of the stories dive into the psyche of Matt Murdock, the secret identity of Daredevil. And some of the stories, not even some, many of the stories, if you were to make it shot to shot into a movie, it would probably work. So I've gone on quite a while praising this book. Now let's give a little bit of an introduction with very light spoilers to some of the stories. So like I said earlier, the beginning, I don't know if you can see it. Frank Miller is doing the art, and then you have Roger McKenzie on the story. So this continues for the first number of issues in the book, and it really isn't bad, these stories. Bullseye is another big character in this book, but you really don't get the high point in this omnibus until you start seeing the stories written by Frank Miller. And maybe it was around this point. This story was excellent. Very, very good drama about Matt Murdock's father. There's a lot about Matt Murdock's father in this story. You also have the Avengers coming in. Oh, this is still Roger McKenzie. Well, this story was really good. Let's see. Do we get Daredevil? I'm sorry, not Daredevil. Do we get Frank Miller? Still no Frank Miller. I think it's the issue with Elektra, maybe, that is the first one. That's frustrating. Maybe I should have done some more research before starting this. Let's see. Here we have Elektra. And now we have Frank Miller. So this might be the first issue. Yeah, the introduction of Elektra. This is where the story really starts to get good. Elektra is an excellent character. If you know anything about Elektra, she's a mercenary, an assassin. And she has a previous relationship with Matt Murdock. They used to date years ago. And now Elektra is doing things that Matt Murdock isn't too fond of. So there's a lot of tension in their relationship. Matt Murdock also has another love interest that comes into play in this story. And there's a lot of tension between the three of them. Let's just say that. So you get Elektra, and there's one really good story in here. I don't want to waste too much time trying to find it, but I'll just give the story beat here. Here's a nice one. You have Daredevil fighting the Kingpin, and the story beat is Daredevil's going into the sewers, and he finds sort of these, let's call them sewer people or homeless people that are looking for food, and he gets swarmed by them. And then later on in the comic, he draws the Kingpin and some of his goons down to the sewers, and part of his strategy is to swarm the Kingpin and his goons with these homeless people. I thought that was very funny. And then a character at the very end, who is a prominent character earlier on, becomes one of those homeless people and starts swarming. You got to read it. That's a really good story. So you get into this. There is a lot of, another thing about Frank Miller that you may know if you know this author is he really likes Japanese culture. So you'll see a lot of Japanese influence throughout here. The book ends with, you have Black Widow. So Black Widow has this sort of short hair and new uniform. She's a good character in here. The omnibus ends with a what-if story. And what I like about this what-if story is, so it's what if Matt Murdock became an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. instead of becoming Daredevil, let's say, is you have the same creative team. You have Frank Miller and Klaus Janson writing this. And the quality really shows. Sometimes with What If, since it's an anthology series, you get hit or miss. This one was good. And of course, being an omnibus, you get a lot of extras. This nice spread showcasing the characters in Frank Miller's Daredevil. Some nice art by Miller and Janson. And that's the omnibus. Overall, one of the best omnibuses on the market. Unfortunately, it's out of print. If you're not able to get the omnibus, I don't know if it's in print, but I know that there are epic collections of several of the Daredevil runs. You can look for that. There are trade paperbacks collecting some of what's in here. So that's another option. But if you can get to these stories and read them, of course, online is another option if you have Hoopla or if you have Kindle or an ebook or, of course, the Marvel app giving you access to all the comics. But anyway, you can read this. If you want to read Marvel, this is one of the best Marvel comic runs of all time. Put Frank Miller on the map, one of his best creative works. Highly recommend. Hope you enjoy it. We'll catch you guys later.